Hello and welcome to my Godot 2D tutorial. This one is going to be about collisions and sort of a very simple combat system, I guess. So to start off with, what we want is to go to the player here, and I want to make sure that I want layer 3 and mask 3 to be selected. I also on the enemy system, so on the enemy character for mask 4, layer 4 to also be ticked. So the enemy should have layer 1, layer 4, mask 1, and mask 4 selected, and the player should have layer 1, 2, 3, and 1 and 3 selected. This is if you're following all my other tutorials as well. So to start off with, we are going to go on the player and we are going to add a child node, and we want it to be an area 2D, and we'll add the collision shape 2D, and I'm going to make mine a box. You can make yours whatever shape you like, but I feel like a box is better, and I'm going to make it slightly bigger than the player is. And this is just in the main scene, so I have the player and the camera, and underneath the camera is an area 2D with a collision 2D on it. And then I'm going to go into the enemy subscene, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go on the character body, add child node. It's going to be an area 2D with a collision shape, and that is going to be also a square. And I'm going to make this one slightly bigger than we made the previous one on the player, just so it shows off the collisions a little better. But you can make it a similar size if you want, but I feel like it would be better to make it slightly bigger. Alright, so now I'm going to go onto the player, and we're going to go into player script. And what we want to do is we want to go to the node tab on the right. Click there, make sure you have the area 2D selected in the hierarchy or the scene view, whatever you want to call it. So I have the area 2D clicked on, so it's highlighted. And on the right in the node tab, I'm going to double click on body entered. I'm going to click on the player and the connect a signal to a method window, and I'm going to click connect. So this will bring up our function, and I'm going to delete the pass function that it's automatically put in there. And here what we want is we just want q3, so q_3 and then 2 brackets, the opening closing brackets. So what this is basically a destroy object function from, not destroy object, I think it's just destroy, or game object destroy from Unity. So what this whole function will do is once this this area 2D on the player is entered, it will destroy the player object. And yeah, so if the enemy, and because we got this the area 2D, if we go on the area 2D now, what we can do is if we check what the enemy has layer and mask 4 on. So if we put layer and mask 4 on the area 2D and we turn off layer and mask 1, this area 2D will only react to the enemy itself, like the enemy. So once the enemy collides with this area 2D, the player will be destroyed. So now what we do is if we go to the enemy and we open the enemy script, we will do the same thing. So we go to the new area 2D we have. We go to node, and we go body entered, body node 2D, and we connect it to the character body 2D of the enemy. Delete the pass function, but instead what we want to do this time is we want it to be connected to an input like the player attacking. So what we can do is we can go to the project setting, and I've already added it from just doing some tests, but if I delete it, I'll show you how to add it. So remove action. So what you do is you go to add new action up here, and I'm just going to call it E. Press enter, and then I'm going to click the add icon to the right of the new function we've added, and I'm just going to press E on my keyboard, and it comes up saying that the E key has been pressed, and you just hit OK, and it links the E function, the E button press, to the E function that we created. So now we can close this, and if what we can do is we can do input dot is action pressed, and then we select our E function. So it should be input dot is underscore action underscore pressed, and then inside the brackets it should have a pair of speech marks, and in those speech marks it should have the name of the action we just created, which I called mine just E, like a capital E. So if you named yours the same way, then just type in capital E, and that should be good. And now underneath that should be an if statement actually. So it should be if input dot is action pressed E, and then we want a colon at the end to finish the if statement. So it should be function on area 2D body entered if input dot is action pressed E, and then in that if statement now we want to do Q3. So if the area 2D on the enemy is entered, and if an input action is pressed and that is E, then it will destroy the enemy object. Now we got to make sure that the area 2D's collisions are set correctly as well. So on the player, or in the main scene on the player, the player's layer and mask both have the 3 box pressed. So if I go back on the enemy and I go to the area 2D, I can unclick 1 on both the layer and the mask, and then select 3. And now this area should react with the player. So now if I go back to the main and we go to the 2D and I click play, if I walk into the player, it will delete the player. As you see, the camera like resets itself almost. If I close it and replay the scene, and if I get close enough and just press E, oh, I think the collision's not big enough, or it's not saved. There we go. Let me try and make it bigger and see if that helps. If I save that, go back to main scene. See, there you go. And the enemy gets destroyed once I press E. What you can do is you can make a health system to go along with it. So if I go on here and I go to the enemy, or you could even make it happen when the player's in the detection area. But I feel like having the second area that's slightly smaller makes it a bit more risky for the player, so you have to get closer and risk taking the damage and being destroyed. So yeah, this is the basics of collisions. Yeah, that's the end of the tutorial. Thank you for watching.